Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is SlammerIV, and I am incredibly excited to present to you this game between myself, SlammerIV, in the bottom left, versus DragonArcherZ in the blue, in the top right. This is a match that I played a couple days ago, and it showcases probably some of the best Mech versus Barracks gameplay I have played myself, and also considering DragonArcherZ is the best Barracks player in the game, easily, probably the best Barracks versus Mech you will see. So this is going to be just really a high-level game and a real treat to play and cast. So strap in, buckle up, guys, because this was a wild ride. So I'm just going to continue to move the game along. So really quickly, what we have is a 1 Barracks expand from DragonArcherZ and a 1 Workshop expand from myself. I've gone for the mill tech. Really, you have a couple of choices as Mech. You can go for double workshop, you can go for mill, you can go for drop with a forge. A lot of things that Mech can do. Probably the most vanilla thing you can do is just get the mill out. Nice micro from DragonArcherZ. He barely keeps that raider alive. One more hit would have done it. But what I'm doing here is basically a 5 gat to gyro push. You just continue to produce gyros and gats. I like to add the speed upgrade in as soon as the gats, once I have 5 gats out. And what I'm doing here is I'm trying to counter a potential 4th base. Sometimes DragonArcherZ gets greedy and decides to go for 4 bases early on off of 1 racks. In this game, he's playing a more comfortable game behind with 3rd base set up. And he's got these 5 archers. So looking at the unit counts, it's 22 workers to 22, so our econs are very, very much identical, even though right now Daz now has the expansion out before I do. And then the really key thing to see here is it's 5 gats to 5 archers and a gyro, and I've brought a total of 6 workers along. So this is a very dedicated push from me. Pulling 6 workers is a significant hit to the economy, but let's get this engagement going. I'm trying to poke away at the workers as much as possible and not allow my units to get too picked off by the archers. He's focusing down the workers here. Very smart play from DragonArcherZ to make sure that the enemy units don't get repaired too much. If you put damage into like the gyro or the gatling, it's going to get repaired up. 2 gats go down. There's only 2 left, but several of the workers have been focused down here. I eventually do get cleaned up, and I just run away with the remaining units. Unfortunately, I didn't get a final shot off on that worker. I could have killed another worker. And then he, with good micro, is able to chase me down, but I'm able to run away now that I have the speed upgrade. I'm sending a few units to the right here, just in case he's expanding, and just continue to macro behind. If you look at the workers count, that's kind of was a wash. A slight advantage for DragonArcherZ because he does have the 3rd base already up. And I think he even gets a kill with this raider, yeah. So you can see that the worker counts are basically identical. I did clean up about 6 workers, but I lost 4 workers of my own. And now I have to deal with these archers that are coming down my throat here. I have a couple units counterattacking across the map. This is where gyros are really nice. They can attack across the map and pick off small groups of units like you see me doing now. And they're also very nice for dealing with pushes like this because they're very tanky units. 180 HP compared to 175 for the gatling, and of course, you know, only archers can shoot them, and you can kind of micro them back really nicely, which I didn't do there, but it's fine. I am forced to pull workers to defend these archers now. And you can see DragonArcherZ is just basically targeting down the workers one by one, which enables me to eventually clean up his forces because he's not shooting my gatlings, obviously. But it is a bit of a problem for me. On the other side of the map, I am picking off a couple units with my gatling and gyrocraft. Really sad that this archer is at 1 HP and I don't pick it off. Very annoying for me to deal with. But overall, nice advantage for, I would say, DragonArcherZ. He's at 26 to 22, and my expansion is still not up. I do have equity in a lot of gats and a lot of gyros. So if you look at the unit count, I have a total of 8 mech units against only 7 Rax units. And mech units in general are a little bit better than Rax units, I would say. So it's a pretty nice position. This is a pretty critical juncture in the game, and I want to talk about my thought process here. I know I'm behind in workers, and I know I'm behind in 3rd base, so I know I have to attack with the units I have. However, I decide not to send the workers in. If I send those 4 workers in, I risk losing all of them. because I'm going to have to use them, to defend, and I risk having them die. So I decide I'm actually I'm okay going into a longer game at a possible disadvantage, and instead I'm just going to kind of harass with these Gatlings and these gyros, try to get some worker damaged with them, but not go for a full committal attack. So that's what I do here. With my Gats, I pick off an archer there. This damaged worker that was damaged in the first fight, I'm able to pick off, and my gyros move to the main base and also pick off one worker at the net, and then looks like they pick off another worker at the main. Notice that he has to send archers to his main base, which means he doesn't have very many units to defend his natural base with. And what's going to happen is I'm going to just fly my gyros to the left, and leave basically a large amount of his forces out of the battle. So keep a close eye on that worker count as this battle continues, because we're about equal. Remember, Daz started off at an advantage of workers when this battle started. And now he just doesn't have enough archers to deal with the Gats, or the gyros, excuse me, at this base. And my Gatlings are also kiting his soldiers, so really just kind of an awkward engagement for our Rax player to deal with. So now I decided to just dive in with my Gats and focus down workers as much as possible. He does run his workers away, nice play from him. However, the workers I think it would have been smarter for him just to run his workers all the way away and not even risk them, because he has enough units to clear up forces that I have. And this Gat actually gets a final snipe off, and he runs away. So 27 to 31 workers at the end of that engagement. Behind it, Daz has expanded on the top left, so Rax is still pretty comfortable. He has a priest to heal things up, but definitely not a terrible position for me. If we look at the income tab, which is pretty important, you can see almost a 1k advantage for the Rax player, but he's also lost about 400 more gold. So really it's about a net 600 gold. And even though that's okay for Rax, that's fine, I think Rax actually has to be ahead in gold for it to be an even game. If it's even in gold, I think Rax is pretty far behind against Mech. And also, as the Mech player, you have to be kind of okay with the like tech-wise position you're in. I mean, I have +1 attack coming. I have, a decent economy and infrastructure setup, right? So even though my opponent has a decent economy and supply in general, overall, I don't feel like I'm incredibly behind. Even though, make no mistake, I feel like Rax is probably at a slight advantage at this stage in the game. But Mech, really, you kind of are okay with this, because you kind of know that you have to cede a certain amount of economy advantage to Rax, unless you really kill them with things like this push. You gotta make sure you stay alive from the defense. You can see I'm adding double tower at the natural, at the third, a single tower at the natural. I'm going to add another tower in this little corner right here in a second once I get the opportunity to. Now, Daz has 2 full dropships and a handful of other units marching up. I'm going to send a drop myself across map. So this is a scary moment in the game. He's attacking with a lot of Rax units. My first rock does a lot of damage. Look at that, 4 units, 2 priests already picked off. So my catapults are just doing excellent execution with their +1 attack. I really have not lost a single unit so far, and I'm also drawing his forces towards my tower. So this is actually a really good engagement for me so far. I think I've only lost 1 catapult, maybe 2 catapults and a Gat, and he lost 2 priests and several other combat units. Meanwhile, my drop is now hitting his third base. Good pull from DragonArcherZ. He sees the drop coming before I even pick up, so he does. I do absolutely no damage to him. However, I'm persistent with it and continue to get some rocks off. Really nice hit there. I'm not sure exactly how many workers I killed there, but I think I got a decent amount of shots off on it. And I'm also pulling him away from mining, which is a big advantage. You can see that Daz has added the ballistae on. This is a good thing for you guys to learn in your own games. When you're facing drops, I think it's always good to get at least 1 ballistae out to really deal with these drop positions and snipe down the drop ships and stop the catapults from continuing to do damage. You can see I have 2 kills on this, 5 kills on that, so I'm really getting some good damage done. Taking a quick look at the income tab, you can see the total has kind of evened out. He's only about 100 gold ahead of me at this point. Or, sorry, roughly 1,000-ish gold ahead of me at this point, which is about the same as what it before. But he's now actually behind almost 1,000 gold, so this whole thing is kind of evening out as we continue on. Also, looking at the worker count, he's down to 37 workers. 37 workers is a healthy 3-base economy, but since he has 4 castles, he really would want to have more like 40 workers at this point, and I decided to counterattack with a couple of my gats in the top left, and he really does not have an answer to that. He had no tower in place, so he's going to lose several of these workers to my gat counterattack there. One of the things you're going to see me do in this game a lot is be very persistent with my drop play and with my gat counterattacks. I think Mech has to be really proactive. There's different ways to play Mech. You can certainly go for like a really heavy drop style, which a lot of players go for. But I find, or sorry, not drop style, like push style. But I think it's a little better to just be very much more counterattack focused, because that way you don't have to worry about counterattacking, because your main army is focused on defending when you just send small groups of units out to attack. And you're just going to see these drops tend to be very cost efficient. And even these GAT run-bys, GATs are faster than Rax units, so you can actually use GATs to harass very efficiently as well. One thing you're going to notice about Daz's play is he's going to really add on a lot of towers to defend, and you're going to find that this is a really good way to deal with these kind of drops and the constant pressure that your opponent might put you on. By the way, 3 Ballistae, I think that's a little much for Daz. I don't really love the triple Ballistae. I think he may have just accidentally overbuilt those. Meanwhile, a big fight coming down at this point. My tower's really complete just in time. Now that the 2 towers up, I can really deal with it, and I'm bringing my mech forces in. One thing you'll find on Silent Fjords is this space, because of this like wall right here, is kind of awkward to defend. Your mech units often derp here and here. So you just kind of have to be aware of that in your mech positioning. I like to be kind of out on the map, which is a little risky because a big army can actually come and wipe you here. Whereas if you play back here, it's a little more awkward just because units are running around in a weird way. But it's a little better for your defense. Yeah. So meanwhile, you can see that we're pretty equal on bases. Daz is just now securing his 5th base here, but he only has 35 workers. So once again, he's really only at a worker count that can handle about 4 bases. Thinking about like 12 to 13 workers is perfect saturation. I think 12 is the number that I usually go by, although some people say that the extra worker can technically add slight amount percentage. But I like to stick to 12 myself. But in any event, 12 to 13 is, you know, your perfect number of workers, and you can see that Daz really doesn't have enough to saturate 4 to 5 bases. I mean, he doesn't really obviously have his 4th base or his 3rd base or 5th base really saturated here. So my battle plan at this point is to continue to add upgrades and secure my 5th base down in the bottom right. One thing you'll see is like I'm constantly putting pressure on his mines, but really my 4th has not really been pressured almost at all. Neither has my 3rd since the early game. I've also added several towers in my main just to be safe for drops, which I know is possible. And you can see here they are. Just now he's going to bring his first drop pressure into play. Meanwhile, I'm still lurking at the top with a couple Gatlings. Right now I'm working off of only a single forge, and you're going to see that I'm adding on mech armor upgrades instead of mech attack upgrades. This is a really important point that, meanwhile, just to note, there's a lot of hardcore drops going on here. Archer's getting focused down. Meanwhile, he drops me here, picks off one of the towers immediately. The SimCity was a little bit poor. Frankly, I probably should have just stacked a couple towers in the back here, and this should have been moved down a little bit. But yeah, my main base SimCity was a little bit poor in this game, and you can kind of see already the result of that is not great. Meanwhile, he does clean up the drop there, and he does clean up my Gats over on the left top side. I'm going to lose my advanced workshop, which is not really the hugest of deals. As long as I have a couple dropships still flying around, that's fine. I'm going to have to, of course, replace that as soon as possible. But for the nonce, it's not like the biggest loss in the world. I think he could have got my upgrade instead of the drop, which I think probably would have been a bigger loss for me. You can see I'm already thinking about how this forge is really exposed. I mean, the SimCity around the forge is poor. Usually you want to have houses hugging the forge, so it's a lot harder to focus down. Oh, by the way, I didn't really pay attention to this, but this castle survived with only 14 HP, which is pretty whack. I'm adding towers on. Another thing I want to really focus on of my play is definitely this tower placement. Really, I probably didn't even make enough towers in this game, because towers are basically the same cost as catapults, and they build you equity as the game progresses. So really, I would say adding on catapults is always a really great choice at all your expansions, and even 2 towers is not enough. I would say 3 minimum, maybe 4. Now this is a pretty ill-advised attack from him. He's really getting absolutely nothing done here. And if we look at the income, which shows the units lost, you can see there's about a 2k units lost advantage for me. And he's also, the gold mined has basically evened out at this point. I think a lot of that is because his economy has been hit so consistently by my dropships. Now Daz is finally trying to get this right side base, and if you think about the symmetry of bases on this map, Mech is trying to construct kind of this bottom right side of the map, which includes this mine and this mine. And really, Daz has all the top side mines and this mine. So the mines of contention are really this one and this one right here. Particularly this one, because what I'm going to try to do is secure this position here. And from this position, it's very easy to push this mine. So you're going to see that happen in just a little bit. Meanwhile, I've decided to just kind of throw a large force of Gats up towards the top left. Now, Gats have a large damage, even though they're not the greatest against towers. If you have enough of them, and you just right-click a tower, the tower's going to go down very soon. The thing you have to start realizing in games like this is as upgrades start coming in, towers are like glass cannons. Towers will slowly do good damage over time, but really they die very quickly as long as they're damaged. That's why you're going to see me try to hug towers with buildings as much as possible to reduce surface area and make them harder to hit. Meanwhile, these Gats are going to do really good job picking up workers in this position. I actually sent a couple workers around to help with this fight, and you can see that they're really helping by adding that strong repair to the position. Meanwhile, I have a drop up here just to quickly check in on it. I've only killed 2 workers with this drop, so it really wasn't the most efficient thing in the world. And eventually this priest of all things is going to shoot down the catapult. But I've kind of reached the stage in the game where I'm okay throwing away a single drop. If you think about it, a single drop is a pretty low amount of gold. It's actually only 320 total gold for a drop. And I only need to get 1 really good rock. Say I kill, 6 workers. That's already paid for it if I just kill, 1 basically really good drop. And I've actually been able to clean up his army here with these Gats. And then I'm going to get to those juicy workers and do a ton of damage. And once again, his economy is down to 36 workers, so just really not enough income for our Rax player to efficiently win. Rax needs to be like ahead in gold here. Unfortunately, he's taken so much damage from these Gat drops and catapult drops, Gat pushes and catapult drops, that really it's not he's not been able to hold on these fights. Now I finally decided to move out. I have a nice force of catapults, and I'm going to take his rightmost base out. So that's dead. Oftentimes you can just right-click on bases with your catapults and kill them really efficiently. Meanwhile, I'm trying to fight here with a catapult, but it does get picked off. But not before I trade. Okay, every time you can trade like a catapult for, say, an archer, like, okay, it's not the most amazing thing in the world, but usually you can get 2 archers for a catapult, and then you're already like really efficient and feeling good about it. And this right base is dead, and the left base is heavily decimated. I'm adding, looks like my +3 armor and a couple other armor upgrades, and I'm taking this middle base. And this is where things get really desperate for the Rax player, because I've now really taken the entire bottom side of the map under my control, and I really need to just add towers and secure this now. And you can see I'm going to start doing that soon. I'm a little bit out of cash to spend, but you can see by the supply that I really have plenty of the supply. I've got 4 towers at this base as well, 3 towers at this base, so both my real important mining bases are healthy. And meanwhile, it looks like, ooh, I got a massive, I didn't actually catch that. It looks like I got about 4 to 5 workers on this bottom base. And he's not even, he only has, 5-6 workers to mine at some of these bases. I mean, he's got workers just sitting here not mining, so even that 30 workers is not really a full economy. And unfortunately, without air, so like a dropship with ballista in it, it's actually really, really tough to deal with these drops. One mistake I would say from DragonArcherZ is no tower near his 3rd base has allowed me to get a lot of damage by dropping in this location and this location. Probably a tower here and a tower here would make this a lot harder for me to deal with. So I'm going to actually aim for the mineral line here and get another couple workers sniped down with that. And you can kind of see in that engagement how the armor was really helping me not lose any HP to this. But now the game is pretty much sewn up. I'm 150 supply, I'm maxed out with lots of forces, and I've decided, okay, this is the time to push. He does get a small drop into my main base, but I have a couple mech rallying units to deal with it. I transfer my workers away from my mined out 3rd base, and you can just see the gold difference. Like, my 3rd is already mined out, whereas he's still got 1,200 Oh my goodness, huge kills, huge hits going off, and DragonArcherZ is gonna tap out there. I thought this was like a pretty much textbook Mech versus Rax game from the Mech side. I think our push could have been controlled a little bit better with the 5 Gats and the 2 and the Gyrocraft. But in general, that push punishes anything greedy from Rax, and it forces him to get a lot of units that aren't actually that useful in the early stage of the game. So it's not for free because you do delay your third base a lot, but and I think he was slightly ahead maybe from the early game, but it does keep your Rax player honest, which is good to do. And then in general, just my constant dropping and counterattacks really kept his eco low, and he was never able to get that critical mass of like triple dropship and lots of soldiers to just overwhelm catapult forces. And then through it all, I was able to keep a good core of katas in the middle of the map, and just leverage that slowly to the win. I mean, if you look at the income, he lost significantly more than me in this game. And he also actually mined less overall by the end of the game. So I thought that was a pretty cool showcase for Mech versus Rax. Very close fought. That game was actually fairly close. Even though once I kind of got a stranglehold on it, it was pretty tough for Daz. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Come check out Littlewargame if you've never played this game. It's amazing. Yeah, and I will catch you all next time.